Commander stood at the observation window of Coalition Station 7, watching the stars with tired eyes. At 58 years old, he had seen enough wars to last 3 lifetimes. The scars on his hands told stories he rarely shared. Now he worked as a liaison officer, a quiet job that let him sleep without nightmares. Most nights, anyway. The emergency alarm shattered the silence. Moved quickly through the curved hallways of the station. Other species rushed past him, speaking in languages his translator chip struggled to process. They clicked their mandibles in distress. The floating towels pulsed with worried colors. Something bad was happening. The command center was chaos. Screens showed burning planets. Fleet positions blinked red across multiple sectors. In the center of it all stood Admiral, his 4 arms gesturing at tactical displays. 12 worlds, the Admiral said, his translator making his voice sound hollow. 12 worlds consumed in 30 days. Our elite forces cannot stop them. Watch the footage. The swarm moved like a living carpet across landscapes, adapting to every weapon, every tactic. He had fought hive species before, back on Titan during the rebellion. This was worse, much worse. The legions broke at Threshold 9, another officer reported. They lasted 4 hours before retreat. Knew those names. They were bred for war, genetically perfect soldiers, the trained from birth. If they were failing, the galaxy was in real trouble. We need humanity's elite forces, Admiral said suddenly, turning to. Your species must have special soldiers, yes, warriors beyond your regular military. Hesitated. How could he explain? Humans did not work that way. They did not breed soldier castes or train children for war. They just had people who fought when needed, then went home. Sir, we have our military. They are good soldiers, but... We have seen your military, the Admiral interrupted. Capable, yes, but surely you have others, elite forces held in reserve. Before could answer, Ambassador entered the command center. She was 34, sharp-minded, and new to galactic politics. Her formal robes looked uncomfortable. The Council is requesting Earth's assistance, she said quietly too. They are asking specifically for our elite forces. We do not have elite forces the way they understand it, replied. Looked at the burning planets on the screens. What do we have? Veterans, said. People who fought in our wars and went home. They are scattered across human space, living normal lives. Would they come back? Thought about the men and women he knew, the ones with nightmares and missing limbs, the ones who jumped at loud noises, the ones who had seen too much and somehow kept going. If we asked, yes, they would come. The Admiral was watching them. You will send your best warriors. Looked at, then back at the Admiral. We will send whoever we have available. The Admiral seemed satisfied with this answer. He did not understand the weight of those words. The Coalition thought humanity was being modest, hiding their true strength like other species did. They did not realize that Earth was being completely honest. 3 hours later, sat alone in his quarters, staring at his communication device. He needed to make calls, lots of calls, but first, one call in particular. He contacted the Veterans Outreach Center on Mars. The face that appeared on screen was weathered and kind. Director Nam, who ran the center, looked surprised. It has been years. How are you? Not great, Nam. I need your help. The galaxy needs help. Explain the situation. The burning worlds, the Coalition's desperate request. As he spoke, Nam's expression changed from surprise to understanding. You want to ask them to fight again, Nam said softly. I have no right to ask, admitted. They served their time, they earned their peace, but if I do not ask, billions will die. Nam was quiet for a long moment. Send me the details. I will put out the word. But you know what happens when you call veterans. They do not come because they love war. They come because no one else can do what needs to be done. The call ended. Sat in the darkness, feeling the weight of what he had started. Somewhere on Mars, Nam would activate the veteran network. Messages would spread across human space. To the colonies, the asteroid belts, the frontier stations, reaching people who had tried to forget war. The next morning received a message from Captain Hay. Her patrol frigate, the Quiet Professional, was being reassigned to transport duty. She was not happy about it. "They want me to pick up our elite forces," Hay said over the video link. Her short dark hair was pulled back, revealing the old scar across her temple. "Except nobody will tell me who I am picking up," veterans said. Hay went very still. She had been special operations once before she took a command posting. She knew what veterans meant. How many? "I do not know yet. The call only went out last night. These people are civilians now. Some of them are old. Some of them are broken. You are asking them to." "I know what I am asking." His voice was harder than he intended. "Do you think I want this? Do you think I want to pull people from their lives and send them to die? But the Coalition's elite forces are losing. Their best cannot stop what is coming, so we send what we have." Hay's expression softened. "You are coming too, are not you? Someone has to lead them. You are 58 years old and have a desk job." "Exactly, I am a veteran too." The response from Mars came faster than expected. In 48 hours, 3,000 veterans had volunteered. 3,000 people who had put away their uniforms, started families, built new lives. 3,000 people who heard the call and could not ignore it. Ambassador came to his quarters with the numbers. She looked shaken. 3,000, from across all of human space. Some are traveling for weeks just to reach the transport points. "That is fewer than I hoped," said. "Fewer. The Coalition thinks we are sending an army." "We are sending what we have," repeated. It was becoming his answer to everything. When the Coalition observers saw the first transport ships arrive, confusion spread quickly. The humans coming off the ships did not look like elite soldiers. Some walked with limps. Some had gray hair. Some had metal limbs instead of flesh ones. Many looked ordinary, like teachers or farmers or mechanics. Admiral summoned immediately. "This is your elite force, these broken humans." Looked at the veterans assembling in the station's bay. He saw Sung, who lost his arm on Titan. He saw Jin, whose hands shook from old trauma. He saw Saul, who had been a combat medic in 3 different wars. He saw who looked like anyone's quiet neighbor. "These are the people we have available," said calmly. "They are injured, old. Some can barely pass basic physical standards." "They can fight," said. "How? Your regular military is acceptable. This is an insult to the warriors dying on the front lines." Turned to face the Admiral fully. His voice was cold, controlled. "You asked for whoever we had available. We do not keep soldiers in freezers waiting for wars. These people fought, they went home, and now they are coming back because you asked. That is what we have." The Admiral's mandibles clicked with frustration, but he said nothing more. Captain Hay's frigate prepared to depart for the front lines. As she watched the veterans board her ship, she noticed something. They moved quietly, efficiently. No bragging, no grand speeches. They checked their equipment with practiced hands. They helped each other, especially the ones who struggled. These were not the Coalition's shining elite warriors. These were something else entirely, something the galaxy had never seen before. And somewhere in the darkness between stars, the swarm waited, unknowing of what was coming their way. The transport bay of the Quiet Professional hummed with quiet activity. Captain Hay walked among the veterans as they settled into their temporary quarters. She had expected noise, the usual pre-battle energy of young soldiers. Instead, she found something different, something quieter. Colonel Sung was organizing equipment in Bay 3. His left arm was metal from the shoulder down, a military-grade prosthetic that had seen better days. At 62, he should have been enjoying retirement somewhere warm. Instead, He was checking ammunition counts with the same focus Hay remembered from her own combat days. "Colonel," Hay said, approaching, "your quarters are ready." Sung looked up and smiled. It was a tired smile, the kind that had seen too much. "Thank you, Captain, but I will bunk with the others. Old habit." "You lost your arm on Titan," Hay said. It was not a question. Everyone knew about Titan. 20 years ago, Sung confirmed, flexing the metal fingers. "Learned to shoot left-handed, then learned to shoot right-handed with this. Now I shoot better than I did with two flesh arms." He said it without pride, just stating a fact. Hay moved on, making her rounds. In Bay 5 she found Major Jin sitting alone, staring at his hands. They trembled slightly, a constant shake he could not control. Post-traumatic stress, the medical files said. 10 years working as a mining engineer in the asteroid belt, trying to outrun his memories. "Major Jin," Hay said softly. Jin looked up, quickly hiding his hands. "Captain, sorry, I was just—" "It is fine." Hay sat down across from him. "Can I ask you something? Why did you volunteer? You have a good life out in the belt. Safe, quiet." Jin was quiet for a long moment. "Because when I close my eyes, I still see the people I could not save. Maybe if I come back, if I save others this time, the shaking will stop." He paused. "Or maybe it will not, but I have to try." Lieutenant Saul found them there, her medical bag over her shoulder. At 39, she ran a small clinic in the asteroid belt, treating miners and their families. Her hands were steady as she knelt beside Jin. "Let me see," she said gently. Jin extended his shaking hands. Saul examined them with professional care, then pulled out a small injector from her bag. "This will help for a few hours. Not a cure, but it will steady you for combat." "I do not want to be a liability," Jin said. Saul's expression hardened. "Jin, you fought through the wars when you were 23 years old. You held a position for 16 hours while your entire unit bled out around you. You are not a liability. You are a veteran." She administered the injection. "And we take care of our own." Hay watched this interaction and began to understand something important. These people were not here because they were the best fighters. They were here because they could not turn away. Because despite everything they had lost, everything they had suffered, they still answered the call. Sergeant was the hardest to notice. He was 51, average height, average build. He could have been anyone's neighbor. His file was mostly classified, which told Hay everything she needed to know. Men like did not have public service records because their service was never meant to be public. She found him in the cargo bay, alone, checking a weapons locker that should have been sealed. "That is restricted equipment, Sergeant." Looked at her with calm eyes. "I know, I helped design half of it." He closed the locker without taking anything. "Just checking to see what we have available. Old habits." "For conflicts," Hay said, reading from her tablet. "Or is it more? Your file has gaps." "There are always gaps," said simply. "Captain, can I ask you something? How old is your crew?" Hay thought about it. "Average age is 26. Why?" "And how many combat deployments have they seen?" "Most are on their first or second." Nodded. "The Coalition's elite forces are the same. Young, well-trained first or second deployment. They fight by the book because the book is all they know." He looked around the bay. "Everyone on this ship has fought in at least 3 wars. Some of us 5 or 6. We know what happens when the book does not work." Coalition observers arrived on the ship that afternoon. They were led by a warrior named On, part of the famous. He was tall, his exoskeleton polished to a shine, his 4 arms carrying weapons that marked him as elite. On walked through the human sections with barely concealed disgust. "These are your elite warriors. Half of them are broken. The old one with the metal arm, he moves slowly. The one with shaking hands, he cannot even hold a weapon steady." Commander, who had boarded earlier, stepped forward. "They volunteered. That makes them willing." "Willing is not enough." On's mandibles clicked angrily. "They will tear through them in minutes. We need soldiers, not civilians playing warrior." "They are not playing," said quietly. Before On could respond, the ship's alarm sounded. Captain Hayes' voice came over the intercom. "All hands prepare for departure. We are heading to Threshold 9, ETA 48 hours." The veterans moved into action, not with the rushed energy of young soldiers but with practiced efficiency. Equipment was secured, weapons were checked, medical supplies were. It was done quietly, quickly, without drama. On watched, his attitude shifting slightly. "They are organized," he admitted. "They have done this before," said. In the ship's medical bay, Saul gathered the other medics. There were 12 of them, all veterans of various conflicts. "Listen," she said. "The coalition medics stay behind the lines, safe, protected. We do not work that way." A younger medic, barely 30, raised her hand. "Lieutenant, are we going to fight?" "We are going to do whatever needs to be done," Saul said. "We treat wounded, yes, but if the enemy comes, we fight. We protect our patients. That is the human way." The medic looked uncertain. "The coalition says that is barbaric." Saul's smile was cold. "The coalition is losing. We are here to win." The 2 days of travel passed in preparation. The veterans trained, but not like the coalition forces. They did not practice parade ground formations. They practiced improvisation. They ran scenarios where everything went wrong. They trained for chaos. Colonel Sung led a session on adaptive tactics. "They adapt quickly," he explained to a group of younger veterans. "They learn from what you do, so do not do the same thing twice. Be unpredictable. Use whatever you find, make them guess." "That is not standard doctrine," someone said. "Standard doctrine is why the coalition is losing," Sung replied. "We fight smart, not standard." Major Jin, his hands steadied by Saul's medication, worked with the engineers. They studied the ship's equipment, the mining tools, anything that could be repurposed. "In the asteroid belt, you learn to make do with what you have," Jin explained. "A mining laser is just a weapon with a different job description." Sergeant worked alone mostly, but occasionally veterans would find him and ask quiet questions. How to move unseen, how to strike from unexpected angles, how to disappear. He answered simply, without ceremony. These were just skills, tools to survive. On the final night before reaching Threshold 9, Hay found Commander standing at the observation window, watching the stars. "They are not what the coalition expected," Hay said. "No," agreed. "The coalition expected soldiers. We sent survivors." "Is there a difference?" "Considered this. Soldiers follow orders and execute plans. Survivors do whatever it takes to stay alive and complete the mission. When things go wrong, soldiers look for new orders. Survivors adapt." "You think things will go wrong?" "Things always go wrong," said. "That is why we brought veterans." The ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Threshold 9 system. Immediately, alarms sounded. The planet was half covered in the black mass of. Coalition forces were barely holding a defensive perimeter. Captain Hay opened a channel to all hands. "This is it. Threshold 9 is ahead. Coalition forces are in trouble. We are going in." In the troop bays, the veterans prepared for drop. There was no fear in their eyes, just focus. They had done this before, some many times. They knew what waited below. On the warrior stood among them, watching. "You are about to face he said. "They are unlike anything you have fought. They adapt, they overwhelm. Even we cannot." "We know," Sergeant interrupted quietly. "We read the briefings." "Then you understand that many of you will die." The veterans looked at each other. Some smiled slightly, not with humor but with a dark understanding. Colonel Sung spoke for them all. "We are veterans. We understood we might die the moment we volunteered. That is not new to us." The drop ships launched toward the burning planet below. The drop ships hit atmosphere hard, shaking as they descended through smoke and ash. Through the windows, the veterans could see Threshold 9 burning. The mining world had been home to 40,000 colonists. Now it was a battlefield. Colonel Sung stood at the front of his dropship, one hand on a support rail, his metal arm gripping a rifle. Around him, 40 veterans checked their weapons in silence. These were not parade ground soldiers. These were people who had seen this before. Landing in 30 seconds, the pilot announced. Sung looked at his team. Remember, we are not here to win with style. We are here to survive and complete the mission. Use your heads, not your pride. The ship touched down hard. The ramp dropped and heat rushed in. The veterans moved out in a loose formation, spreading quickly. Not textbook perfect, but practical. They took cover behind rocks, fallen buildings, anything solid. The coalition forces were 1 kilometer ahead, holding a defensive line that was clearly failing. Sung could see the warriors, their polished armor now scorched and broken. They were fighting bravely, but they were dying. "Sir," one of his veterans called, "Coalition Command wants us to reinforce their center." Sung studied the battlefield through his scope. The center was a killing ground. They were funneling coalition forces into that exact position, then overwhelming them. Basic tactics, but effective when your enemy had numbers. "Negative," Sung said. "Tell them we are taking the industrial sector east side." "But sir, that is away from the fighting." "Exactly." Major Jin's team landed 3 kilometers south, near an old mining facility. His hands had started shaking again despite the medication, but he forced them steady as he examined the massive drilling equipment. "This still has power," one of his engineers reported. "They have not damaged the infrastructure, they just kill anything living." Jin climbed up onto a drilling platform, his mind already working. 20 years ago, he had been a combat engineer. 10 years ago, he had started working in asteroid mining. Now both skills merged in his head. "Can we move it?" Jin asked. "The drill, it is designed to cut through rock. It weighs." "Can we move it?" Jin repeated. The engineer grinned. "Give me an hour." Lieutenant Saul's medical team set up in a half-collapsed building. It was not ideal, but it had walls and a roof. Her 12 medics worked quickly, establishing triage areas, organizing supplies. A coalition medic of floating towels drifted over. "You should position further back. This location is too close to combat." Saul did not look up from her work. "We position where our people can reach us quickly." "But if the breakthrough?" "Then we will fight." Saul finally looked at the alien medic. "You stay back if you want, we stay here." The towels pulsed with confused colors. In the coalition, medics were sacred, kept safe behind all battle lines. The idea of medics fighting was unthinkable. Sergeant's team did not appear on any tactical map. They had landed, reported their position once, then gone silent. Coalition Command tried to contact them repeatedly. No response. What the Coalition did not know was that, and his 15 specialists were already 3 kilometers behind lines. They had used maintenance tunnels, old mine shafts, even sewage systems. They controlled the surface, but they had not bothered with the underground. "Mark targets," whispered to his team. They were in a tunnel beneath a command cluster. Above them, thousands of the creatures coordinated their assault. "We could collapse this tunnel," one specialist suggested. "Bury them all." "Not yet," said. "First we watch, learn their patterns." The first major attack came at noon. They surged forward in a massive wave, hitting the coalition center line. The warriors fought with incredible skill, their 4 arms wielding multiple weapons. They killed hundreds in minutes. But they learned. The second wave adapted. They came from different angles, using tactics to counter what they had done. More coalition soldiers died. The commander stood in his command post, watching his warriors fall. "They adapt too fast. Every tactic we use, they counter within minutes." "That is because you keep using the same tactics," Commander said from his position with the human forces. We use proven battle doctrine. And they prove it does not work, replied calmly. Sir, my forces are in position. Request permission to engage. Your forces are scattered across non-strategic positions. I need reinforcements at the center. The center is a trap. Let me work. On wanted to argue, but his warriors were dying. Do what you want, human. It will not matter. Colonel Sung's team had turned the industrial sector into something the coalition had never seen before. The old factories, the mining equipment, the storage tanks, all of it became weapons. When they swept around the eastern flank, expecting to find undefended territory, they found something else. Automated mining equipment and turned into remote weapons. Fuel tanks rigged to explode at specific triggers. Factory machinery that crushed and cut anything that entered. They adapted quickly, learning to avoid the traps. But that was exactly what Sung wanted. While they learned to avoid the machines, they funneled themselves into lanes where Sung's veterans waited. Not yet, Sung whispered, watching through his scope as hundreds of moved into the kill zone. Not yet. He waited until they were perfectly positioned. Now. The veterans opened fire, not wild spraying but precise, controlled shots. They had been trained to conserve ammunition, to make every bullet count. They fell in waves. But they adapted. The next wave came faster at different angles. They were learning. Good, Sung said. Let them learn, fall back to secondary positions. The veterans smoothly, leaving behind more traps, more surprises. They followed, learning, adapting, and walking deeper into Sung's maze. Major Jin's drilling platform came online with a deafening roar. The massive machine, designed to bore through solid rock, turned toward the swarm. Jin sat in the operator's seat, his shaking hands steady on the controls. This is insane, one of his engineers said. Probably, Jin agreed and pushed the drill forward. They had never encountered anything like it. They tried to swarm the machine, but the drill was too large, too powerful. It carved through their formations like they were nothing. And behind it, Jin's combat engineers followed, using the path it cleared. They adapted, trying to attack from the sides. Jin had expected this. He had rigged mining explosives along the flanks. As the move to surround him, the charges detonated, collapsing buildings and creating barriers. They learned fast, Jin muttered, but I learned too. Lieutenant Saul's medical station came under attack at hour 3. They broke through a coalition weak point and poured toward the building. The coalition medic fled immediately, following protocol. Saul's team did not flee. They grabbed weapons. Patients to the back rooms, Saul ordered. Everyone else defensive positions. Her medics moved like they had trained for this because they had. Every human combat medic learned to fight. It was not barbaric. It was practical. Sometimes the enemy did not care about medical symbols. They hit the building like a wave of black death. Saul's team met them with controlled fire, falling back room by room, protecting their wounded. They did not panic. They did not run. They simply fought with the calm efficiency of people who had done this before. When coalition reinforcements finally arrived, they found Saul's team still fighting, still holding. Every patient was alive. 3 medics had been wounded, but they were still fighting. The coalition commander stared in disbelief. You are medics. You should have evacuated. Saul, reloading her weapon with blood on her uniform, looked at him tiredly. We are soldiers first, medics second, and we never leave our patients. Sergeant's team struck at hour 5. They had spent hours underground, mapping the positions, learning their patterns. Now they emerged in the middle of a command cluster. The attack was surgical. 15 veterans against thousands of, but the veterans had surprise and position. They destroyed command nodes, disrupted communication clusters, created chaos. They tried to adapt to respond. But's team was already gone, disappeared back into the tunnels. They emerged again an hour later, kilometers away, hitting a different target. They are using guerrilla tactics, unobserved, watching the reports. That is not proper warfare. It is effective warfare, Commander replied. By hour 18, something remarkable had happened. The coalition lines had been on the verge of collapse. The end were being slaughtered. Victory seemed impossible. Now the lines were holding, not because the veterans were better fighters, not because they had superior weapons, but because they fought differently. Every time they adapted to one tactic, the humans changed tactics. They did not follow doctrine. They improvised. They used the environment, the equipment, anything available. They were unpredictable. Colonel Sung met with Major Jin at a rally point. Both were covered in dust and blood. "How are your people?" Sung asked. "Tired, 3 wounded, none critical. You?" "Same's team. Still invisible. I think they are actually enjoying themselves." They shared a brief, dark smile. Around them, younger veterans were helping each other, sharing ammunition, treating minor wounds. They moved with the confidence of people who had survived worse. A young coalition soldier approached, one of the few survivors of the Commander Sung. "I have to ask, how did you know where they would move? Our tactical computers could not predict their positions." Sung thought about it. "I did not know, I just guessed based on experience. I fought the hive back in 28. They were a hive species too. Different biology, same basic patterns. Hives funnel, they overwhelm, they adapt. But they all think the same way." "You used lessons from a war 20 years ago." "I used lessons from every war I fought. That is what veterans do." By hour 24, Coalition Command was reviewing the reports in stunned silence. Threshold 9 was holding. The human veterans had not just stopped the advance. They had stabilized the entire front. Casualties unasked. Human forces report 0 deaths, 17 wounded, all minor. 0, that is impossible. I lost 200 warriors in the same time. Commander stood in the command center, tired but satisfied. "It is not impossible, it is experience. Your warriors are brave and skilled, but they are young, most on their first or second deployment. My people have fought in 5, 6, 10 different wars. They know how to survive." Captain Hay, watching from orbit, sent her report to Earth and the Coalition. One line would be remembered for centuries. "Veteran force has secured threshold 9. 0 losses. Repeat, 0 losses. They are asking for new assignments." The galaxy was about to learn what humanity meant by the word veteran. Admiral sat in his private quarters, watching the same footage for the 20th time. The battle recordings from Threshold 9 played across multiple screens. He had commanded fleets for 30 years, led thee in 100 battles. He had never seen anything like this. On screen, Colonel Sung's team moved through the industrial sector. They were not fast, they were not graceful, but they were relentless. Every movement had purpose. Every action seemed to anticipate what they would do next. "Replay section 47, commanded." The footage showed Major Jin's modified drilling platform carving through lines. It should have been destroyed within minutes. Instead, Jin had positioned explosives, created choke points, turned a simple mining tool into a weapon of devastation. How had a human with shaking hands, someone marked as psychologically damaged, done this? Switch to another screen. Sergeant's team was barely visible in the recordings. They appeared, struck, and vanished. 15 soldiers disrupting thousands of. It was impossible, except it had happened. A message appeared on his console. Ambassador was requesting a meeting. Accepted, curious. The human diplomat appeared on his screen, looking tired but professional. "Admiral, I wanted to discuss the deployment of additional forces," said. "Your veterans have exceeded all expectations," admitted. "But I must know, how did you train them to fight this way? What special program did Earth use?" Looked confused. "Program? There was no special program. These are just veterans, people who fought in our various wars and then went home." But their tactics, their adaptability. They have been fighting wars their entire adult lives, explained. Colonel Sung fought in the Titan Rebellion at age 22. That was 40 years ago. Since then, he has been in 6 major conflicts. He has seen everything. Felt something cold in his chest. 6 conflicts for one soldier. That is not unusual for us. Major Jin fought in 5 wars before he retired. Lieutenant Saul served in 3 different conflicts as a combat medic. These are normal careers for human military personnel. But you retire them, you send them home, you do not keep them as warriors. Of course we send them home, said, sounding surprised. They served, they earned rest. We do not keep people in military service forever, that would be cruel. Thought about they were bred for war, trained from birth and fought until they died. That was the proper way, except they were losing and the human veterans were winning. I need to see Earth's military records, said. The records arrived 6 hours later, assigned his best intelligence officers to analyze them. What they found shocked the entire coalition command. In the last 200 years, humanity had fought 14 major wars and 37 smaller conflicts. Civil wars, colonial rebellions, corporate disputes, resource conflicts. Some lasted years, some were over in months, but they never stopped. The average human veteran had served in 3 combat deployments. Many served in 5 or more. Some, like Sergeant, had service records that were mostly classified, suggesting conflicts no one talked about publicly. They are always at war, one intelligence officer reported. Not galaxy-wide conflicts like we face now, but somewhere in human space, someone is always fighting. And they rotate soldiers through these conflicts, another asked. Yes, soldiers serve, go home, then get called back for the next war. Some volunteer again. Some are drafted, but the pattern continues. A human soldier might fight at age 20, go home for 5 years, then fight again at age 25 in a completely different war. Studied the data. There were perfect warriors, but they only fought in 1 or 2 major conflicts before dying. The Tals trained their entire lives for warfare, but they had only faced 3 major battles in the last century. Human veterans fought constantly. They learned, adapted, survived, went home, and then did it all again. No wonder they are so effective, said quietly. They have institutional knowledge. Every lesson learned, every mistake made, it stays in their population. When they face a new enemy, they draw from decades of experience. Should we inform the council? An aide asked. Yes, they need to understand what we are facing. What we are facing, you mean the... No, said, still watching the footage of human veterans in combat. I mean what it would be like to face humanity if we ever became their enemy. The Coalition Council meeting was tense. Representatives from 40 species gathered in the Grand Chamber, all watching the battle reports from Threshold 9. These humans are remarkable, the Tal's High Commander said, but I do not understand. Ambassador, you told us you were sending whoever you had available. These soldiers are clearly elite forces. Stood at the human delegation podium. No, these are veterans, retired soldiers living civilian lives. But their performance is the result of experience, interrupted. These people have fought in multiple wars. They know how to adapt because they have faced different enemies, different situations. They are not elite. They are simply experienced. A council member from a peaceful species spoke up. How many wars has your civilization fought in the last century? Consulted her notes. 14 major conflicts, 37 minor ones, that we officially acknowledge. Shocked silence filled the chamber. Your species is barbaric, someone said. Perhaps, agreed calmly. But we are also effective. You called for help. We sent what we had. Now, do you want to discuss philosophy or do you want to win this war? The council requested more veteran deployments. Earth agreed, but with a warning from, these people are volunteers. We will not force anyone to fight, and they will return home when this is over. Over the next month, the veteran forces spread across 6 different battlefronts. Everywhere they went, the pattern repeated. Initial skepticism from coalition forces, followed by respect, then requests for the humans to take command positions. Commander found himself leading a mixed force of humans and aliens. At first, the alien soldiers resented taking orders from a 58-year-old human with a desk job. Then they saw him work. Did not lead from the rear. He was in the field, studying the enemy, adjusting tactics in real time. He made decisions that seemed strange at first, but worked. He had a sense for battle that came from living through too many of them. How did you know they would avoid that sector? A young TALS officer asked after one engagement. Because the terrain reminded me of the Ganymede campaign, explained. Different enemy, same geographical constraints. Hives think alike, even when they are different species. But Ganymede was 30 years ago. Yes, I remember it clearly. Major Jin commanded an engineering battalion now, mixing human and alien specialists. His hand still shook, but his mind was sharp. When Saul administered his medication each morning, they barely spoke. She understood. He understood. They all carried their wounds. One night after a particularly hard battle, Jin sat alone in his quarters. The tremors were worse. He heard sounds that were not there, saw shadows of dead comrades, the old nightmares coming back. Lieutenant Saul found him there. She did not ask questions. She just sat beside him, offering silent companionship. Around them, other veterans moved through the ship, each carrying their own invisible scars. "Do you think it will ever stop?" Jin asked quietly. "The memories, the fear." "No," Saul said honestly, "but we learned to carry it, and we are not alone." Sergeant's operations remained classified, but their effects were visible. Command structures failed mysteriously. Supply lines got disrupted. Attacks came from impossible angles. When coalition intelligence tried to track his team, they found ghosts. "Where is Sergeant's unit?" a coalition commander demanded. Operating independently was always the answer. But where? If we told you, it would not be independent. The turning point came at the Battle of Station. They launched their largest assault yet, throwing millions of units at a critical coalition position. The station's defense should have failed in hours. Instead, it held for 3 days. The human veterans, now numbering over 5,000 across multiple fronts, coordinated a defense that mixed every lesson learned from every battle. Colonel Sung used industrial equipment as weapons. Major Jin rigged civilian infrastructure into military assets. Lieutenant Saul's medical teams fought when needed, healed constantly, and never abandoned their posts. Sergeant, invisible teams struck from the shadows. Commander orchestrated it all with the calm of someone who had seen worse and survived. The coalition forces, watching the humans work, began to learn. They started to improvise. They stopped following rigid doctrine. They adapted. "You are teaching them to fight like you," Captain Hay observed during a brief rest. "No," replied. "I am teaching them to survive. Fighting is just part of survival." Admiral sent his final report to the Coalition Council. It was not what they expected. "The human veterans are not superior warriors," he wrote. "They are superior survivors. They have been tested by constant warfare, hardened by loss, and educated by experience. When we breed perfect soldiers, humans create experienced ones. When our elite forces fight once and die gloriously, human veterans fight many times and live pragmatically." He paused, considering his next words carefully. "They are a formidable enemy. They adapt to everything we throw at them. But they have never faced an enemy that has been adapting for 200 years of constant warfare. The humans do not just learn from this war. They learn from all their wars. Every veteran carries lessons from conflicts they have never heard of. The question before this council is not whether we can win with human help. The question is what it means that humanity's retired soldiers, their civilians, are more effective than our elite forces, and what it would mean if we ever faced humanity's actual military in conflict. The report sent ripples through the coalition. Some species were grateful, some were frightened, all were respectful. And on the front lines, the veterans kept fighting, not for glory, not for honor, but because someone had to do it and they had the experience to do it right. The war was not over, but the tide had turned, and the galaxy was learning what Earth had known for centuries. Veterans were not broken soldiers. They were survivors with knowledge that no amount of training could replace. They knew they were losing. A hive mind spanning billions of organisms reached a conclusion. The coalition forces had changed. The adaptation that had always worked before was failing. The enemy was adapting faster. The hive made its decision. Every unit across 50 star systems began moving toward one target, Coalition Prime, the heart of galactic government. If the coalition died, the galaxy would fall. The message reached Coalition Station 7 at 300 hours. Commander was awake, as he often was these nights. Sleep came harder with age and too many memories. He read the report 3 times, then activated the emergency channel. All human forces, this is, they are going for Coalition Prime. Everything they have, this is it. Across multiple battlefronts, veterans checked their weapons and prepared to move. They had known this moment would come. Hives always went for one final push when they were desperate. Admiral stood in the Coalition Command Center, watching the fleet approach. Millions of ships, more than had ever been assembled in one place. The Coalition's defensive fleet looked pitiful in comparison. "We need more forces," an aide said desperately. "We have committed everything," replied. Though every elite unit we have, and the human veterans, it will have to be enough." "Sir, there is an incoming transmission from Earth." Tensed, Earth had already sent its veterans. What more could they give? Put it through. The face that appeared on screen was young, maybe 34 years old. The woman wore a military uniform that was different from what the veterans wore. Sharper, more formal. Her eyes were hard. "This is General Wu of Earth's Special Operations Command. We have received word about the assault on Coalition Prime. We are deploying to assist." "General, we appreciate the offer, but we already have your veteran forces." "Those are veterans," General Wu interrupted. "We are active duty. Our transport fleet will arrive in 48 hours. Felt something he had not felt in years, hope mixed with fear. "General, may I ask what forces you are bringing?" "Counterinsurgency specialists, special operations teams, rapid response units, are people who are currently serving." She paused. "You asked for our elite forces before. We sent veterans because we did not understand what you wanted. Now we do. We are sending what you actually need." The transmission ended. Stood in silence, processing what he had just heard. If the veterans were retired soldiers, what were the active forces like? He contacted Commander immediately. "The humans are sending more forces. Active duty," they said. Was quiet for a moment. "Did they say who was coming?" "A General Wu, Special Operations Command." Ah's expression was unreadable. "Admiral, you should know something. The veterans you have been working with, many of them train the active duty forces, including General Wu." "I do not understand." "You asked what humans call our elite forces. The truth is, we call them veterans. The active duty soldiers are just people trying to earn that title." Looked directly at the camera. "But they have learned from the best. You are about to see what humanity looks like when we send our youngest, fastest, and angriest soldiers, the ones who learned from us." The Earth fleet arrived exactly 48 hours later. It was not a large fleet, 7 ships carrying 5,000 soldiers. But when they deployed, the coalition forces could immediately see the difference. General Wu was 34, fit, and moved with predatory grace. Her second-in-command, Commander Bo, was 29 and had eyes that never stopped scanning for threats. Their soldiers ranged in age from 23 to 35, all in peak physical condition. Colonel Sung met them at the deployment zone. At 62, he looked old compared to these young warriors, but when General Wu saw him, she immediately saluted. "Colonel Sung, it is an honor, sir." Sung smiled tiredly. "General, I heard you graduated my training program. How long ago?" 9 years, sir. You taught urban warfare." "I remember you were good. Are you still good?" "I learned from the best, sir. All of us did." Sung looked at the assembled Special Operations Forces. Young, eager, dangerous. "Show me what you learned." The contrast between the veterans and the active forces was striking. The veterans moved with tired efficiency, conserving energy. The active forces moved like hunting animals, all controlled aggression and precision. Major Jin watched them prepare and felt old. "They are so fast," he said to Lieutenant Saul. "They have not been doing this for 40 years, Saul replied. "Give them time, they will slow down too." "Is that supposed to be comforting?" "No, just realistic." Sergeant observed the special operations teams with professional interest. They were using techniques he had helped develop, tactics he had taught. It was strange, seeing younger people execute movements he could barely do anymore. One of the young operators approached him. "Sergeant, I am Lieutenant. I studied your work on asymmetric warfare." "You studied classified operations?" asked mildly. "They some of your missions for training purposes, the Soul Extraction, the Mars Underground Campaign. We model our deep insertion tactics on your work." Felt a mix of pride and sadness. His body could not do those things anymore, but these young soldiers could. Good, someone should use those lessons. People died learning them. The hit Coalition Prime with everything they had. The battle made all previous engagements look small. Millions of against the combined might of the Coalition and Earth forces. The Coalition's elite warriors fought bravely. They held the main gates with suicidal courage. The Tals defended the orbital platforms. They were magnificent, and they were being overwhelmed. The human veterans, as always, fought smart. Colonel Sung turned the city's infrastructure into weapons. Major Jin rigged civilian equipment into military assets. Lieutenant Saul's medics fought and healed in equal measure. They held their positions with grim determination. But the active duty forces fought differently. They did not hold positions. They attacked. General Wu's teams moved through the ranks like surgical instruments. They targeted command nodes with precision. They disrupted hive communications. They struck fast, hard, and disappeared before they could adapt. Commander Bo's counterinsurgency specialists infiltrated behind lines, not through tunnels like Sergeant's teams, but through direct assault. They were fast enough, skilled enough, and aggressive enough to punch through defenses that should have been impenetrable. Strike Team executed what the Coalition thought was impossible. They penetrated the Central Command Hive, a massive structure that coordinated all forces in the system. 50 operators against millions of. They succeeded. The Hive command fell. Without coordination, the swarm began to fragment. Admiral watched it all from the command center. How are they doing this? The veterans were impressive, but these active forces are. Younger, faster, more aggressive, Commander said. He was wounded, a blade had caught his leg, but he refused to leave the command center. They learned from us. We taught them everything we knew. Then they improved on it. But you said the veterans were not elite forces. They are not. They are experienced. These active soldiers gestured at the tactical displays showing the special operations teams carving through positions. They have experience too, just less of it. They are trying to earn the right to be called veterans. I do not understand your classification system. Smiled grimly. For humans, veteran is the highest honor. It means you survived, you served, You can go home and rest. Elite is just a word we use for soldiers who are good at their jobs, but veteran, that means you have earned peace. The battle raged for 6 days. The coalition forces held. The human veterans provided the stable defensive core. The active duty forces provided the aggressive offensive strikes. Together, they broke the assault. On the 7th day, the fleet began to retreat. Their final gambit had failed. The hive mind was fragmenting. The war was not over, but the coalition would survive. Colonel Sung found General Wu in a medical station. She had a broken arm and burns across her shoulder, but she was still directing operations. "You did good," Sung said. "We did what you taught us, sir." "Better than I taught you. I would not have thought to infiltrate the central hive. Too risky." "You taught us to take calculated risks. We calculated that it was our best option." Sung sat down carefully, his old bones protesting. "When this is over, what will you do?" "Go home, rest, train the next generation, then probably volunteer for the next crisis." She looked at him, "Like you did." "I am 62. I should be retired." "But here you are." "Here I am," Sung agreed, "because someone had to answer the call." They sat in comfortable silence, two soldiers from different generations, both understanding the weight of service. The Coalition Council called an emergency session. Every species representative was present. Earth's delegation was larger now, including General Wu and several active duty commanders. The Tao's High Commander spoke first. "We must acknowledge our debt to Earth. Your forces have saved the Coalition, but I must ask the question we are all thinking. Ambassador, you sent veterans because we asked for whoever you had available. You said they were not elite forces." Stood calmly. "Correct, they are veterans, retired soldiers." "Then your active forces arrived. General Wu's special operations teams. Surely these are your elite forces." General Wu stood. "No, council member, we are active duty. We serve currently. But we are not elite because we are active. We are simply soldiers trying to do our jobs well." "Then what do you call your elite forces?" The question hung in the air. Wu looked at Colonel Sung, at Major Jin, at all the veterans present. "We call them veterans, those who have served, survived, and earned the right to rest. They are our elite forces. We active soldiers are just trying to become like them someday." Ambassador added, "The veterans you fought beside, many are 40, 50, 60 years old. They have injuries and trauma, but they have experience that cannot be taught, only earned. General Wu is 34 and extraordinary, but Colonel Sung has 40 years of combat experience. Who is more elite?" Admiral spoke from his position. "I believe I understand now. For other species, elite forces are those in their prime, specially trained or bred. For humans, elite forces are those who survived long enough to learn from their mistakes, experience over perfection." "Exactly," confirmed. The council chamber was silent. Then the representative spoke. "What would happen if we ever fought against humanity?" His expression was cold. "You saw 5,000 veterans and 5,000 active duty soldiers. Earth has hundreds of millions of veterans and billions of civilians who would fight if threatened. You do not want to fight us. No one does." The truth settled over the council like a weight. Humanity did not have elite forces. They had an entire civilization of people who knew how to survive wars, veterans who could be called back, civilians who could take up arms, a species tempered by centuries of conflict. 3 months later, the war officially ended. The hive mind had fractured beyond recovery. The coalition had survived. The human veterans began returning home. Colonel Sung went back to his garden on Mars. Major Jin returned to the asteroid mines, his hands still shaking but his nightmares quieter. Lieutenant Saul reopened her clinic. Sergeant vanished, as he always did, back to whatever quiet life he lived. Commander stood on Coalition Station 7, watching the last transport ships depart. General Wu stood beside him. "Will you retire now, sir?" Wu asked. "Maybe, maybe not. There is always another crisis." Looked at her. "What about you?" "I will serve until I earn the title of veteran. Then maybe I will rest, but probably not." They shared a knowing smile. That was the human way. Serve, fight, survive, rest. Then do it all again when called. Far below, on Earth and her colonies, life continued. Veterans went back to being teachers, engineers, doctors, farmers. The galaxy had seen what they could do. Now they could rest. Until the next time someone needed them. Because humanity's greatest strength was not their military. It was their veterans. People who had seen the worst, survived it, and were willing to come back and face it again if needed. The galaxy feared the veterans. They should pray they never saw what happened if every human civilian decided to fight.